Come on in, come on in. Yes, a pleasant good evening to everybody out there in listening land and viewing land. It's Tough Form coming back at you one more again. It's Andrew inside the place tonight. We're dealing with some issues. We got issues. How much people got issues? Well, we're going to talk about some issues tonight. And tonight, it may be racial issues, it may be institutional issues, systemic issues. We got all kinds of issues that we're dealing with. Some people may use them for crutches, some people may use them for legit reasons why they are gravitating to crime, gravitating to things that are just not becoming. Well, I'm joining the fight, and I got some brothers with me who are going to be setting some examples tonight. So we're going to deal with the issues. We're going to deal with what is happening and what is going on. So all the people, welcome. Pleasant good night to everybody. Tonight I want to introduce to everybody, for those who don't know, my first guest, which is a good friend of mine, long time, none other than Adrian Davis. Adrian Davis, go ahead and say what's up to the people in Tough Forum Land.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. My name is Adrian Davis. I'm a trained teacher. Currently, I work at a group home for individuals with special needs, and I'm actually in the process of working in the justice system with particularly youth.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the Tough Forum. You're no stranger, of course. And we're first time here live together. My second guest, another young man, proud of. We call him JJ. But David, you introduce yourself to the people of Tough Forum.
Hello. My name is David, but people call me JJ. That's my given name from birth. I am a firefighting student. I attend Seneca College. Currently on track to become a firefighter.
All right.
I go to Mount Zion Apostolic Church in Malton, and I work with the youth department there. So that's a bit about me.
All right. All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time tonight. Yes, we're talking about issues tonight, and we're going to deal with them. We're going to have just a regular old discussion because some people may not like where I may be coming from, but we're going to deal with some issues. And you know that in this world that we live in, every day the news cycle plays and you see things happening. In the last little while during the pandemic and during the issues with George Floyd, the Black Lives Matters, etc., we've experienced something that we've seen that really took effect in the signs and names of people being so significant. We've seen statues in the United States being pulled down, taken down. Over here, we've had issues where we've seen Henry Dundas, who was the Scottish politician who is accused of being instrumental in delaying the abolition of the transatlantic slave trade. And that was caused more than 500,000 more black people to be enslaved in the British Empire. We have also Sir John A. Macdonald, the Canada's first prime minister and a key architect of the residential school system. And we know lately, with all the mass graves that they have been uprooting, that is a definite touchy issue there. But this was one of our very first prime minister of Canada. We also have recently Edgerton Ryerson, known also as Ryerson University, where plenty people I know who have been educated at that establishment, a Canadian educator and Methodist minister who was a prominent contributor to the design of the Canadian public school system. He has been linked to the design of the residential school system, which forcibly placed Indigenous children in schools designed to eradicate their language and their culture. So some very serious charges here, gentlemen. And not to mention in the news cycle, we've heard lately about the Justin Trudeau with the blackface. We've heard about Stephen Lecce, education minister, now being accused or being asked to get out of there for something that happened 15 years ago. So, gentlemen, tonight, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. The question I have is removing statues and names erasing history? Who wants to touch that first? Do you think that when we're pulling down statues and taking down names such as these individuals, that's erasing history? Adrian,
Um,
speak on it.
no, well, it doesn't erase history. I think what it does, it just doesn't. I think the idea behind it really is just to not glorify something that was a part of something that was so heinous as slavery, the residential schools. So it's really just about downplaying and not glorifying what was done in the past. I mean, no one's going to ever forget that, and you should never really, essentially. So
Right.
uh, I don't really believe that it's going to erase it.
Okay. JJ, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly what Adrian said. I don't think you could erase history like that. Um, Taking on a statue doesn't change what already happened. Taking on a statue doesn't really change what people already know in their heads and have researched and lived through probably sometimes. So yeah, taking on a statue has nothing to do with history.
So, what do you say about this Ryerson situation now? We know that the the reason behind it, I guess they were saying it doesn't reflect the values that they want to portray out there, right? So the values of someone who started something so heinous as Adrian said. How then do we keep going to a school like that? What would you do differently than taking down the signs? What do you think could be done differently than that? Since it's not going to erase the history, do you think we keep the signs then and then just keep going to that school, or do you feel like we're selling out if we go to that school? JJ.
Uh, I mean, the millions of people that have already passed through the school, it's like, but if we're gonna talk about the name behind it, I really won't see a problem with it because at the end of the day, it's just a name. They change it, they change it. They don't, they don't. Because if you change it to another name, people are gonna go and search for their history, and then you're gonna keep changing name after name after name after name. So I personally don't have a problem with it, but if they change it, they change it. I don't think it has anything to do with the school itself because the school's a great school. I know lots of people, as you said, that have graduated from the school that currently go to the school. So I don't think it has nothing to do with the school itself. Just whatever you do with the name, you do with the name.
Okay.
Yeah,
Adrian.
I think what should be done is just to realize that, I mean, first of all, um, just acknowledge that, hey, this happened, you know, and we're not going to be treating anyone differently like that anymore. Hopefully, not anymore. And just understand, yeah, it happened. Um, people are people, and despite the fact that people have done heinous things in the past, um, there were some good things that they did. Now, just understand that when we look at things and just realize what comes out of it, just not to ignore people's struggles, not to ignore people's differences, and just acknowledge, hey, this is what happened. But even though this person did this, we are still helping people, and he does not speak for us in that regards.
Okay. So what do you say to someone who says then, because Adrian, you said we need to acknowledge it, talk about it. This is the first I'm hearing about these guys as being intricate in the trade slave, and this was not something that you learned about growing through the times that you went into the educational system. So how do we address something that was not even mentioned to us? It's only now that we're hearing about these things. So why is it that someone who was implicated in that type of um, thing that now he has been memorialized, he's been idolized, he's been put on a pedestal to say, Ryerson or Dundas and those type of things. That's what I'm saying. We never knew. We were driving down Dundas like it's a regular street, not thinking. We could talk about names later, but you said talk about it, acknowledge it. If this is the first time we're actually hearing these things and saying, "Oh my gosh," I am saying if we knew from the jump that this is a school I'm going to, then wouldn't I have a choice then to say I choose not to go to that school?
Well, I think that's the point as well. That's a very good point because um, I understand why people want to change the name or its name is changed or want to take down different statues and things like that. But as I mentioned to someone else before, okay, how far does this go? Right? Because as you said, if you don't like the school because of who it's named after, then just don't go to the school. Find another school where your research and the person involved in heinous acts or certain things that you don't agree with, and just go from there.
Okay, time out. Flag on the play. So this is what I like about this conversation is because personally I look on it like this. This is my opinion. I don't have to be right, but check this out. When right now this is an issue that everyone knows about, so we're talking about it. We're even talking about it tonight. Right. If I decide not to go to that school, Adrian, if I decide not to go to that place because I know for myself, right? The next person that's coming, they don't know. And to the point that we're only finding out now, plenty of people were going to that school because they didn't know. Now, if I was educating the next friend of my neighbor, for example, say, hey, don't go to that school. Why? Because that guy was a murderer. That guy was a slave owner, etc. They might think about it, but it would only be so secluded to that neighbor.
Right.
This makes it more open. So one thing I do believe that this has done is has stirred up a conversation that you cannot ignore no more. Right? So if anything, I must say that's what it did. If I stop going to an establishment, it's my choice. That doesn't mean that another person might say, and tell me if I'm wrong. JJ, tell me if I'm wrong. Another person might say, well, I don't care, man. I'm going to school because it's the closest school to me. I'm not going to drive 5 hours or 2 hour and a half just to go to the nearest school. That's the closest school. I'm going to go there. So, he did some stuff. Okay, well, so long ago, I'm going to go. What do you say about that?
That is exactly what I was thinking about, because if we're going to base where we go off of the title of a place, then a lot of places would probably close down. Because if we were to stop going to Dundas, how would a lot of us get to work? How would a lot of us eat if we don't use Dundas no more? Because Dundas is named after this terrible guy. So let's not use Dundas no more. Let's go around Dundas and go on Finch. So what about the stores on Dundas? What about the houses on Dundas? We're gonna stop using Dundas?
Okay.
So it's like it's honestly a personal choice if you wanna still go to Ryerson, if you don't want to go to Ryerson.
And I think this is the divide that we have today, because it came out so late, one, and two, someone has a choice to make. Am I gonna stand on my principle and not go to this school because of what I know, or am I gonna go because of convenience and lack of money to go somewhere else? But this is still a serious issue. At least if we were presented with the facts from jump, it's already out there like how it is today, and that's what I have to say. Now I'm going to read a comment here from my good friend Mitch Smith. It says, back in the days, we did not have a choice of the school we went to till college, which is facts. It was based on where we lived. And I'm sure that's the same thing today, that you can't go. No, JJ, you say no? Okay. No, so you can go anywhere in your jurisdiction where you live. It doesn't matter which school you go to. They're not asking you where you live, right?
As long as you can get there, you're good.
No, we were like by postal code. It was like there was like 3 schools in our area. If I wanted to go to a school just south of Jane, I had to live in that area or had to show proof of address that I lived there. That's how bad it was. So I understand that now it might be different, but where we are now, what I want to say is that I think it's late in the game to give people a choice when they already got educated there. Now, people might be for those who are listening, you might want to know, what am I trying to say here? Well, this issue affects Black and Indigenous people. It affects people who already have systemic issues dealing with. And I believe personally, and you guys could push back here, is that when we are not being helped by our educators, our workplace employers, and so on, our police officers, I think that there's kids growing up and they're saying, man, there's no hope. The system's set against me, so I'm just gonna do me. Now, I had a conversation with you gentlemen earlier on in the week, and I said, if there was 10 people that look like us, 5 of those people will push through all the oppression. But if there's 5 people that don't look like us, those 10 will, or those 10 people, they will not find the oppressiveness that we face. Am I wrong or am I right by saying that, or is that a crutch?
I think it depends, honestly.
On what? On my color
Because
or on my drive? What does it depend on?
it depends on your drive, honestly.
Oh,
Your
okay.
color could play a factor into it, because I know of students, and I myself have been through some racial profiling in school,
Okay.
but it's all depends on you, because if you want something, you'll get it. It doesn't matter if the person's bad treating you or whatever, but in some cases, it's like, okay, this is overwhelming, or this has become too much, and people give up. But I just think it depends on the situation.
All right. Adrian, what say you?
Yeah, everyone's vision is different, and how they're brought up and how they think. Um, there are a lot of choices that we make, and I believe that oppression is there in very different places and different nuances. But I think what needs to happen is that um, those people that are finding it very through just need to be shown a way. Some of them may have been shown a way, or I think there just needs to be more work with giving people the option to know that, hey, there's a different way, different things that you can go to. So, but yeah, I guess people's another big thing is fear, because it's like, well, they see a good thing, too good to be true to them, right?
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm gonna read something to you quickly.
Mhm.
Institutional racism, a global government problem. This is something an article I read in the Toronto Star, or in the Global Government Forum. In recent years and decades, a number of civil services have been accused of institutional racism. Some countries have since taken steps to ensure the government workforce is ethnically diverse and inclusive. The article explores that what measures Canada, the US, the UK, and New Zealand have taken. On September 21st of this year, a $2.5 billion class action lawsuit on behalf of 1,100 Black federal workers against the Canadian government. We're talking about issues tonight. Would be brought before a judge for the first time. It is expected to be a long, drawn out case, says the columnist. The class action has grown from 12 claimants in the last 10 months, from where it is now at 1,100. It alleges that for the last 51 years, Black employers across Canada's public services have been subjected to institutional racism. We're talking about issues tonight, institutional issues. We're talking about if you cannot even get a job in certain areas because of your race, doesn't that play a factor in why some of these kids are saying it doesn't make no sense? I tried it. I tried to get a job and they looked at me, they heard my name, and because my name was Shaquan Johnson, they automatically just scrapped up mine and said, okay, we don't have nothing for you. This is 51 years, guys.
Yeah.
And when I look at the news cycle today, we're still protesting, we're still marching, we're still having picket signs. I don't see that from this demographic. But from this demographic, I see that we're doing that 50 years in. Is there a problem here? Do the criminal elements have a legit point to why they give up. Now, kudos to you, gentlemen, because you're of the five that pushed through. But this is what we're facing. We have another five that says, the heck with this. It's rigged. It ain't going, it's not gonna help me. So please, gentlemen, help me to help these other five come over to this side.
It definitely does incentivize people to go down the pathway of crime. And particularly if we're looking at, I know a lot of it happens in the States, but it happens in Canada too, where certain areas where there is drug problems, especially with crack cocaine, the government was in on that.
True.
Flooding the streets.
True.
Right? So when it comes to choosing that pathway, it's like, oh, the higher ups are purposely pushing you that way, not just saying, okay, you can't get this job, but now incentivizing it that, hey, this is where you actually belong. So it really is a really deep rooted problem.
Time out. Before you speak, JJ, I know, Adrian, you're a little bit older than JJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said something that a lot of people may not know. JJ, did you know that government entities had a great hand, okay, in the drug trade, etc., right? Okay, so you know this. So this is something that's been happening over decades.
For
and
years.
When I start finding this stuff out, it's when my kids were of like the teenage years in the 90s. I remember watching Rodney King getting beat bad. And I was like, those guys, they're done. The police I'm talking, right? And when I heard these guys get off, I was like, oh my gosh. And that was the time when my kids were being born. My first son was born 92. And it's not till when they got to that age where they were walking to school and they had to come home and tell me, Dad, I got pulled over today for walking. They wanted to give me a search and I had to give them the talk. So, I can see, and I'm not even going to talk about my experiences. JJ, you even said you went through some of those things, and I know you're fairly younger than me. But if that is still happening today, how do we reach these kids? Because why I'm bringing this up and why I'm talking about the systemic and all these other institutional issues and all these issues is because they're plaguing us. And when you look at the news cycle, it's predominantly when it comes to guns and shooting one another and people of opportunity trying to make opportunity in the wrong way. It's us. When I checked out the BOLO list, which is be on the lookout list for the most wanted people in Canada, that list is a diverse list. If you check it out, the 25 most wanted criminals right now who have not been caught. It's a
25.
diverse list. On that 25 list, one female. So we have a problem that men are dying. Men are killing people. Men are doing stupid things. And I want to know, what are we doing here? So on that list, it's a diverse list of blacks, Hispanic, you have white, even one white, he was the number 2. He was found in a plane crash the other day. He was a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. I lie not. This is facts. Check it out in the paper. So if our own Canadian Armed Forces have people who are trained killers, basically, because they're trained with guns, and he was now turned into a hitman. Now he's dead. Hey, I'm not one for talking about karma, but just look at what I'm saying to you. In institutions where you don't expect to see this, this is happening even today. But we see a lot of this, and maybe it's because it's disproportionately reported on the news channel, the news cycle, why this happens. But regardless, we can't say that. I want to know, is it a crutch to say that the pulling down of statues, the change in the signs is not waking people up to say, hey, there's a problem that we're going to address, because if we don't do it this way, it's just going to get buried under for another 50 years? JJ, say something, please. I know you had something, man. I probably took your train of thought away. I'm sorry about that, but
it's okay. I think you touched on what I was going to talk about. But honestly, we all know there's an issue, and I feel like we need to address the bigger issue before we address. I don't want to say the other one's smaller, but there's a very important issue we have to target first,
Touch it,
which
please.
is the children in school. Because if we focus on the adults and we focus on the history, we're not going to get nowhere, because the days going by, the clock is still ticking, and hours are still going by, and children are still being born. So I think we need to tackle the issue of kids in school. So if kids are in school and kids are seeing people, and you have people that have been through the racism, they've been through the Rodney King time, they've been through the Martin Luther King time, they've been through the cops stopping them just while walking home. If we can get people that could connect with these kids and tell them that, okay, you can get over this, you don't have to live in fear. Yes, you might be racially profiled, but you could do this, or if you're stopped by a cop, do this, or if you could, because I mean, it won't be 100% accurate, but if you could at least give them some information, if you could reach out to a kid, if you could support the kid, because I know there's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. So if you can have a village of people help at least one kid, it would help a lot in the school system and kids coming off of crimes and coming off of drugs.
Point taken. I'll push back later. Go ahead, Adrian.
I think with again taking statues and stuff, I believe the effectiveness is to draw attention.
Okay.
Obviously it's not going to be the be all to things, right? As we said before, a lot of us didn't know about Ryerson and his past. So in terms of like calling it out and having the okay, that draws our attention, but it stopped there in terms of, well, then no. I mean, yes, it shows that okay, fine. Ryerson itself is more aware of the history and things like that, and is standing in solidarity with those that have been Aboriginal, the indigenous, of course, and their ancestors. But again, it's a starting point to have the conversation. So the more of a conversation, then put things into action.
Okay. I like your points. I'm going to push back a little bit now. JJ said something, and I'm partially in agreement there. Let's tackle the kids that are in school. Okay. Before I go there, here's a comment Mitch Smith said again. I have seen where choosing the right way is a lot harder than choosing the wrong way. I'm sure we all can attest to that, right? Choosing the wrong way is or the right way is a lot harder than choosing the right way. I can attest to that. I had friends who were bright, graduated, made sure they got that degree. And when they came on and started working and they saw their paycheck and they went down the block to where their friends that went to school with them were slinging and selling and having a good time on the block and didn't go nowhere all day. And they said, hey, you need anything, man? And they're looking in their hand like, dude, I just worked a whole week with my diploma and you're telling me you made that in just what, 15 minutes? Forget that. And these guys are bright. So it's easy to choose the wrong way. I'm going to push back this way though. We need to start with adults. What this does, and I'll address this. I'll say this. I don't think that the name situation, first of all, I don't think we should be naming anything going forward after people.
Exactly.
Okay? Bill Cosby is a perfect example of a person who's donated to schools and to good cause, but because his name seems to be tarnished right now, no one wants to even be affiliated with any school that he's helping. So it kind of negates the good that he's done. And the same with Egerton Ryerson. Though the establishment was built to educate people, the bad things he's done, it kind of negates some of those things, right? So we kind of, people always gravitate to the negative. But if we don't start with the adults and say, listen, there's somebody inoculating these young youths and telling them, hey, listen, come with me. I'm gonna show you something. Where they getting guns from? Where they getting access to high-tech guns? Where they getting access to drugs? Just think about what you were doing when you're 18. Did you even know how to get some of these things, right? There has to be someone up here who is invigilating and inoculating these kids, right? So just even as a parent, and we're going to have a next session coming up soon. I'm looking for some fathers. So if you're hearing this right now, I'm soliciting fathers to come on, because we're going to talk of the opposite side of the mother's cry, the father's cry, and what you're instilling in your kids. Because when I know friends who be telling their kids, listen, don't be a one burner. That means that there's four burners on the stove. You got to have four women. There's plenty of sand in the sea, or how's it go on the beach, right? So when you send that message to your child's like, oh, my dad's a player. I want to be a player, right? And when you send messages like, you're slapping around your wife or whatever, and that's in front of your kid, and your kid thinks it's okay. So yes, adults have to be targeted also, JJ. Yes, we need to target the young people in the schools, right? But it starts from here so that we can cut that tie. So say, listen, when people are talking foolishness to you, you can differentiate fantasy from reality. That even when someone is in an institution of, or in the area of teaching, now Adrian, I know you're in that, so I'm not offending you or anybody, but you know that it's there. That educators, they have that art of manipulating, because they're the one educating the child. So they themselves, a student should be able to know, I'm bright enough to know that what that person just said to me is wrong. So we need to not only tackle the young people, we need to tackle the older people. This is a big issue. And of course, I don't have all the answers, but that's why I want to talk about it tonight. Issues tonight, mental issues. Come on, give it to me. What else we got here? Speak on it. No. Anybody want to say something? I want you to say. Let me just read one more comment here. What I have here.
Mhm.
Pastor, that's my pastor, Bonita Howell. She says, to those who do not know the history, taking down the statues raise curiosity, awareness that something needs to look into. That's my point exactly. If those statues just remain there and we just said, oh, well, it was long ago, let's just keep on moving, we would just be going there like, okay, what happened? I think this stands out now and it's a stain. Now it's a time to educate people why the name was changed.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Now, JJ, I know we talked about these things about the money it costs and all that, but you know what? Just think about what you could have averted when, if we didn't knew this from the jump, right? If we didn't know this from the start, we would have probably a better chance. If you had abolished the slavery movement long ago, rather than keep it going so that another million, a million, that's a lot of men, that look like us, that could not make it anywhere. You already know what slavery entails, right? So even with Stephen Lecce the other day talking about the slave auction. Now I know that's in the past, and listen, I'll just speak it out right now. I don't care. But when you talk about slave auction and people are saying don't think nothing big about that, that's big because that speaks to us. When you're talking about slave auction, tell me what other demographics besides Aboriginal and whatever was, because I hear the pundits talking about it. I know I'm ranting right now. I'm gonna give you guys a 1 minute to rant, so don't worry.
Go ahead. No, it's
Um,
okay. It's okay.
I'm ranting because I've heard the pundits out there saying, "Oh, come on, man. You can't tell me this is an issue because liberals, you're voting for Justin Trudeau anyway. This happened long ago and whatever. So you're trying to tell me then that it doesn't matter that auction." They even said, "Oh, did you watch Ben Hur and you see the slaves? They were Jewish slaves." Yes, we know. I don't know how much white slaves we knew about though. You get what I'm saying? So when we're talking about slave auctions, we know blacks were auctioned off. We know indigenous were auctioned off. We know that all these other minorities were auctioned off. So yes, it affects us. And it's something that needs to be addressed. I don't want to cancel him. I don't want to kick him out, but it's something that is a talking point. And you need to understand it's not something to be swept under the rug. Come on, tell me something.
No, it's very true. And when some of those pundits are saying, well, that was in the past, and you have to. But then it's like, okay, so that's about the leader in government.
Mhm.
About Bill Cosby, things are getting pulled off from him, right? Losing
Right?
shows, losing this.
Yes, sir.
The Bill Cosby show being taken off of like one of those platforms that you could view on, but now it's being taken off. School's name being tarnished on that, so it's like, so it's okay for Lecce or it's okay for Bill Cosby to be tarnished with that, but not a government official.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, treat him the same. Either, yes, we condone what Bill Cosby did is wrong, but those things shouldn't be taken away from him, just like how these shouldn't be taken away from Lecce. Or take all of those things, but you already see there.
Okay. Okay. Now hold on. I have a question here from Brittany Verrett Vincent. I hope I pronounced your name right. It says, "What issues are off topic? What is the subject matter?" I don't know if the question here is speaking to what we're talking about tonight, or you're saying what issues are off topic. So I'm just trying to tie in two things here tonight. So just to clarify, we're talking about some systemic issues. We're talking about institutional racism. We're talking about some of these things that might contribute to why we see a lot of our people gravitating to the streets. Now, when we're talking about the pulling down of names and signs, we're not totally in agreement with those things, but we're just saying it brings an awareness that there's something that was wrong that these people did. And because it was not brought up, so when you say, I wonder if that's a question you're asking, is what issues are off topic? When it comes to education, slavery should be something that's on topic that we know about because it affects us. Economical issues should be talked about. We're not really learning how to manage money and those type of things. We're learning about the war in FLQ, and we're learning about the Quebecois and all these other things. Great. But we need to learn things about that affects us. You have immigrants coming into your country. So hello, let's talk about how we got here and what stopped us from getting here in the first place. So that's what we're talking about. Thank you, Brittany. I hope I didn't offend her or didn't get too already, but thank you very much. That's how we're trying to tie it in tonight. Thank you for your comment. Mitch Smith says the problem with the school system is that they are taking away so much and not replacing it with anything. So then, gentlemen, what should the school system be trying to replace some of these things with then? Instead of changing names, what should the institutions be trying to do to replace or to educate the people who are coming in now that about their history, about the past, about these figures like Edgerton Ryerson, like Dundas? What kind of material should be brought into the system? Now, JJ, since you're in school right now, you're studying, what are some things that you think should be in the curriculum?
In all honesty, could I be real with you?
Be real. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Okay. In all honesty, I don't believe the government would change the curriculum to fit what we need and what we should know, or what we're supposed to know, because I would have liked to know how to manage money. I would have liked to know how to even use a credit card, or how a credit card works, or how a bank account in general works, or how to take out a mortgage, how to
Yeah.
save properly, how to invest, how to do certain things that could benefit me in the future. All I learned was to count 1 + 2 and read a book and answer the questions, which are not benefiting me right now, but
Right.
the things that we should have learned in school we're not learning. But in all honesty, I don't think we are going to see that, maybe sometime in the future. But even Black history, I've never really, the only time I've learned of Black history is in Black History Month.
Okay.
I've been to Canadian schools from kindergarten up into
Yes,
grade
sir.
12, and I've only learned about Black history in February.
Like
Only in
Black
February.
Black history only happens in that month. Right. Adrian, speak on it. What you got to say, Adrian, about that? What are some things that we got to implement in the school system
Yeah,
or replace?
well, as JJ said, and how to manage your at a young age, maybe even like school. Those hard skills that we need that would help us even critically about what we spend our money on. That would be educating on us. Also, just to learn more about cultures within schools. And as JJ said,
Like that.
not just designated to just 1 month, but spread it throughout the curriculum, because and just, tie in to see like, hey, how does it relate to what's going on now, current issues? How does the past relate to now? I
Exactly.
mean, they're starting to do that now. Just make it more throughout the year, and things like that would help.
Thank
Especially
you,
in the
thank you, thank you.
because once you establish that in the younger grade, will be within them, and it won't be so foreign to them when they get or their 30s.
That's right. That's right. Yes, sir. Thank you. I see you.
Even
I saw you freezing up there a little bit. What are you gonna say, JJ?
even simple things like creating a resume. I never learned that in school. And to my knowledge, when I started applying for jobs, it was always changing the format of how your resume should be and all of that. So, in all honesty, I think they should have courses like this, and even as Adrian said, in middle school.
Yes.
Okay, how to manage your money, how to apply for a job, how to make a resume on your own. Because I know kids that are my age and even younger that credits are shot. Like there's no coming back. That it's probably going to take a few years for them to build it back. I know kids that don't know how to make a resume. I'm part of that spectrum that don't know how to make a resume, that don't know where to look for jobs, that don't know what to put on their resume or even what a resume looks like because they haven't been taught it.
Good points. Good points. Now, if I was to put one forward, I'm speaking with everybody out there that's viewing this. I'm speaking with my guest tonight, Adrian Davis and David Collins, two young men that I respect and I like their opinions that they're putting forth tonight. We're just touching on some issues like systemic issues, racial issues, mental issues, institutional issues, some issues that are facing people and causing them to head to the streets and say that the systems and the issues that are stacked against me, it's making me get out of here. Now there's plenty of people that can fight through some of these issues, but we've been fighting for so long that till this day I'm still seeing people using some archaic methods or some way back then methods that are still doesn't seem to be really moving the needle far enough. And so that's why we're talking about it tonight. I will give my guest tonight at least 1 minute just to give their rant, and at least while we're also talking about this, they're going to put forth at least some solution. They've already brought one. I just want to hear one solid solution from you again. So think about that as I pull that to you in another time before we end, because this hour just got burnt up already. We're running through it, but it's a important topic, and I don't want to use it as a crutch, but it's there, it's real, and that's what I expect on this show. That's why it's called the tough forum, because we're talking about the tough topics, and it's hard for me to say that a lot of the crimes that are happening are committed by people that look like us, right? And because of some of the areas, and listen, there's all kinds of excuses I can make, but we need to change that. I need to change that trajectory, and if we can even talk about it. Now, some things that, as I was going through school, I like what Adrian said, that if we had more diversity in terms of learning other people's culture, that would be great. Sometimes, to be honest, even in church, we don't even do that. So let's skip that for a second. But I like that in school because at least there you kind of force. Now, one thing I did in my studies, I realized that because of the curriculum, it's so set that you're kind of limited to change to form a teaching pattern fit to you, your demographic, or people you see in your classroom. Now, I'm sure people have different teaching styles. One class I loved a lot, believe it or not, was English. I loved drama because drama was a place where you could learn to you can act. So you could come in there looking like this one day, screw face, and then all of a sudden you put on a Shakespeare acting like, whoa, I didn't know that this dude has that kind of skill. And it just takes you out of your normal. And I think that's where you get to express some viewpoints. I think you can role play. I think you can show people. And I think what we need to do is see people talk the real, JJ, in classes and say, listen, I got up this morning and I had toothpaste for breakfast, right? Well, some people are like, listen, yeah, I had a nice bacon and eggs and toast and orange juice, and I got dropped to school. Oh yeah, I had to hike it and I missed my bus because I didn't have no money. Why is that? oh, I have cockroaches running through my kitchen room, and we need to talk these things that some people don't even realize that other people are going through, right? And how do we do that when a curriculum is set to say, hey, hey, hey? Now, I'm not saying just do it. Bring your teaching mechanism and your plan and say, this is what I want to put forth, and this is how my class is, and I think I can reach them. That's one solution. I think we need to have conflict management classes where when we were in grade 4, 5, and 6, we had burn sessions in class. I mean, people tell me like, man, you look like tar baby. I mean, I'm dark already, and I had to suck that up and find a way to come back. I hear people, man, oh, your breath stinks like 10-day cabbage water. Ouch.
Oh
And you hear
gosh.
burn. And you had to be witty. It wasn't settled by fist, it was like your mouth, right? So we have to have ways that we can take insults, and we don't have to resort to gun, bat, or knife. We can just use our mouth. Like we saw at the Oscars. Someone said something, and instead of repeat or saying responding with his words, he came physical, right? And I think we need to have that from early. There's a saying in certain countries, you can't bend a tree when it's already grown. You have to start young. So that's what my solution I'm going to put forth. And being now that I said that, I'm going to ask each of you just to give me one solid solution. I heard two already, and that's great. And we like to put forth solutions, not just criticize and make all kind of comments. What would you do then, since the system's not so good? Okay, then here's a solution. Let's try it. Conflict management, please. Let us role play. If someone hits you, if someone steps on your J's, you can say, oh, boss, did you realize you stepped on my J's? And it's like, yeah, so what? No, 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 you stepped on my J's. I just like an apology. That's all I'd like. I'm not trying to, right? Okay, who wants to start it off with a solution? What do you think about that anyway? The conflict management. You guys like that idea?
That would work, but I
But
believe when I was growing up, if someone told you that your mouth smelled like 10-day cabbage water, there wouldn't be no class after that because you'd probably get up and want to fight. But I do think that would work. It wouldn't work right away, but
right away,
definitely
yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit. But
yes,
the solution I would come up with, or I would want to see, is I feel like we should have times where everyone just sits down and be real. Like everyone tries to like relate with everyone, because if we don't know where we're coming from, and we don't know each other, like we only see each other for 6 hours a day in school, or 8? I'm not sure.
Roughly.
6 hours in school. We only see each other 6 hours in a day, and we're seeing this one person. We're not seeing the person that's coming from miles away up the road, the person that's coming from no food at their house and cockroaches running through the kitchen and through their shoes or
right,
whatever,
right,
or mouses, or you have 3 mice as your best friend. We're not seeing those. We're not seeing that person. We're seeing the person that's in class and they're smiling. Their clothes are a bit raggedy or whatever, but
right.
they're smiling and they're having a good time, and they're, I wouldn't want to say putting on a front, but they're enjoying the time they have there, because when they go back home, it's something totally different.
Totally
So
different.
I feel like if a lot of kids understand where their peers are coming from, and if a lot of kids understand that, okay, I'm coming from this, my other
They,
friend's
they,
coming
they
from
can
that,
relate.
we could relate to each other and we could
Yeah,
help out each other and we could push each other to go further. And I feel like if a lot of us of this color, as Deacon does, a lot of us of this color, if we were to come together more and support each other and build each other up, instead of, as you said, you stepped on my J's, or what about it?
yeah,
If we learn to humble ourselves and just really, how do I say this, have a more compassionate heart,
yes,
I feel
sir.
like a lot of things would change. So it's like, relate to children, but we still need to come together as a community. I'm not saying if a white person comes to us to help us, we reject them because they're white. No, I'm
No,
saying that, okay, me and Deacon are in the same class. Adrian's new to the school. Adrian's suffering in math. Deacon's good at math. We
help
we
me
go,
out. Help.
okay, Adrian, what do you need help with, man? I see you're struggling in
Yeah, I
math.
like
Let me
that.
help you out. And so now we're building all together. So none of us are staying behind. We're all going together and we're all pushing each other. And join clubs, man. Play sports. Do something.
I like that. I like that.
Sitting down, drinking takes hours. Go and run up and down the street 10 times, and something, man. That's my little rant.
Nice. Adrian, go ahead.
Um, definitely, I think that one of my one of my favorite shows I used to watch was Beyond Scared Straight,
Hmm.
and basically what the premise was is that they happen in the U.S. Of course. They take at-risk youth and take them to an actual prison to see how inmates were living.
Okay, scare us straight.
And yeah, and they, they talk each inmate would talk and show them where they live, just kind of like mentor them, hey, this is what I used to do. Da, 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 this is what I'm, the results of that. Programs like that, I think, would help. Um,
Mm.
you know, or have someone was involved in their past and talk to students, and that it probably happens now. Um, I know with COVID, it's kind of debunked a lot of things, but having those programs where they have people that used to do stuff in their past, or if they visit a prison, or even another thing that they used to do was have them visit hospitals, especially with youths that are like into like drug abuse and alcoholism and that type of thing. Have them visit like a psych, or you know um, even visit outside of a morgue. I know that sounds very morbid, but just to see that reality, because oftentimes we get desensitized because we see stuff on TV and whatever. But when you actually see some right there, it's different because I've actually been to a morgue, and
Yes.
it, you know it's not cool.
It's
So
like no.
having those type of things, I think maybe not to exactly those degrees, but that's something to at least start a conversation with, where it's like, hey, you have these opportunities. This is where it could lead if you go down this path. One more thing that I would also suggest, also, is continue with after school programs. I grew up with
Yes.
it really does help because, as JJ said, you're just used to seeing people in one certain light, but then when the school hours are over, you get to see them as like, oh, okay, this person isn't so bad. So that's another thing that could really help.
Beautiful. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I
Yes.
tackle that one comment that came in?
Go ahead. Which one was that?
Let me, uh, I think
The
there's one that
problem?
said there's no sport.
Okay, okay. That's Mitch Smith saying there's
Um,
no sport to join.
that may be true, maybe because
Hmm.
of COVID, but let's think of it past COVID. Let's think COVID's not here.
Hmm.
There are over 100, maybe even 1,000 youth programs in the province of Ontario. Maybe not sports teams, maybe not knitting classes, but there are a lot of youth programs. There are some that have shut down. There are some that are opening and looking for people constantly, year in, year out. They're looking for people. So if we could send two children a day, or send two parents a day the registration form for a youth program in their area, and say, okay, I know you have kids this age, send them to the youth program. If it costs a bit of money, maybe some are free, some cost money, some are actually government funded, so that's pretty good. So if you could find at least two children a day and be like, okay, I'm gonna get in contact with your parents. Listen, there's this youth program up the road. They play sports. They sit down and talk. I remember they used to have boys clubs and girls clubs, and
Yeah.
the boys used to play sports, and you sit down and have a real conversation with whoever the mentor thing is. My brother used to do this thing where he has a mentor come to the house, and he would sit down and talk, and they would do whatever he likes to do. So there are so many things that kids could be occupied with, but it's either one, they don't know, two, no one's providing the information to them, or three, no one's reaching out to them.
Mm. Good points. Good points. Thank you, gentlemen. My guests tonight are Adrian Davis, and we have David Collins in the tough forum tonight, just talking about issues. There's so many issues, and we only just delved into like a little bit of them. There's so much things, and I thank you everyone out there who's making the comments and always supporting the Top Forum. Much respect and shout out to you. We didn't even touch on some of the things about one of the things that article I sent to you guys just about the racism that's been happening up in Brampton here. Shout out to Nadine Wisdom for sending me that article and highlighting that. But there's so much times we're gonna have the opportunity because of this platform. I'm thanking my guest tonight for spending the hour with me. A lot was said here tonight. A lot can be done to do and be effective with the change in the cycle that we see happening out here. Men are still dying more so than women. When women are even dying, they're dying at the hands of men. And the late statistics that we're seeing is that they're getting younger and younger and younger. 13, 14, 15, 16. And just think about what you were doing at that age. We need to address this. We need to nip it in the bud. But young men, if you're listening to this, if you feel like you are up against the system and you can't win, there is a way. And these are two gentlemen right here who are pushing through it, who have made it and are doing big things. We got someone who's in the teaching system and going into the institutional system where, you know, people might be incarcerated. And I know he's going to reach a lot of young men in there. You know, being scared straight. It's a two-way cycle though, Adrian, because I've been on the streets where you've seen people get stabbed or shot or beat with a bat in their head. And after a while, you see that so much, you get desensitized to it till it becomes like second nature. So when you see, listen, we didn't even touch social media. I mean, when people watch social media or watch TV in general, TV,
music,
the movies, when we are slamming someone like Will Smith for slapping someone on stage, but we will go to a movie and pay good money to have that popcorn to see him shoot a gun or slap someone silly with a gun. So it's different when it's acting, but when life mimics art, it's a problem. Listen, it's just so ironic the things that are happening in this world, but listen, that's the world we live in. And while we live in this world, we got to try to make our impact to help and change that trajectory from going down into mediocrity and that cycle. Listen, man, right now I'm of the belief that it's beyond mental issue now. It's to the point where I think some of these kids are demonically possessed. It's only the devil that can be making this happening right now, because it's some nonsensical things I see happening out there. 87-year-old grandmothers getting punched and pummeled for just I don't know, whatever they're gonna get from that woman. What's it gonna do for you? Are you gonna be set for life? So give our head a shake, man. We got to give our head a shake. Thanks to all those that were commenting in there. Mitch Smith still killing me with comments here. He says, you know, the issue is, he agrees with a lot of things we said, but the issue is the funding, and we know that. Something we didn't even touch on there, because even as an educator, I know, Adrian, you see that too, that some of the things, the resources are limited, and some teachers are forced to, not really forced, but they're obliged, or they feel like the obligation that they have to go and buy some books or pencils or whatever for kids, right? So there's a lot of areas that we got to do. And so each one that can do in your community, in your area, in your church, in your school, whatever circle that you're mentoring, I'm praying you up. I trust and believe that we cannot give up this fight. We got to win back our men. We got to win back our young boys. And that's why I call this the F-Bomb Friday. It's not the F word I'm using. I'm dropping a bomb another way. The F-Bomb, it's finally bringing our men back. And we need to bring them back from mediocrity, bring them back from just satisfying with the norm or the bare minimum, but actually persevere and push through. Gentlemen, tonight, I just thank you for your time. Be vigilant out there, everybody. Be sober, but always abounding in the will of God. I want you to just remember that, because good over evil every day, I say. Gentlemen, I'm gonna give you 1 minute each to just give a plug, anybody that you want to shout out, and then we're gonna end the show after that. So just at this time, Adrian, if there's anybody you want to shout out, you want to plug, go ahead and do your thing, sir.
You know what? I'm just giving a bit of a shout out to our frontline workers
Right?
when it comes to the hospitals, social workers, nurses, PSWs, um, everyone. Especially during this difficult time coming out of COVID, still dealing with COVID. You know, you need that you need that special care as well. And
Yes.
we haven't forgotten you, and it's hard to deal with people um, in general.
Yep.
Nevertheless, in the work setting where you're supposed to be caring for someone or trying to counsel or mentor someone, so shout out to those that are on that grind, and God is with us. We just
That's
have to
right.
and continue to push through.
Thank you, sir. JJ, is anybody you want to shout out? You want to send a plug out?
I want to shout out my family, shout out, my church family, people that I know. Uh, I like to shout out my aunt's business. She has a business. She makes burritos, a black owned business.
Jamborito.
Jam burrito. I like to shout out my church, Mount Zion, Malton. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I appreciate the time that you spent with me tonight. We'll do it again some other time. I want to send a shout out to my wife and all those who are commenting. My wife's my sound tech, my technician. She does everything. She sets all this stuff up, make me look good. Big up to her. I want to shout out my cousin Orlando Thomas, who's serving in the army over in the United States. He was the first sergeant for so many years and instructing, and he was recruiting. And I think he's finally say he's going to retire right now. So salute to you, sir, for your service. Love you. Until we can talk again. It's Andrew signing off for Tough Forum. See you when I see you. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Have a good night. Just hang back on backstage and I'll talk to you in a second. All right. God bless everybody. Have a good night. Peace and one love. All right, home it.